Stop everything. If you're planning to move to Australia or you're currently on a sponsored visa, what I'm about to tell you will completely change your immigration timeline. The Australian government just announced massive changes to the sponsored visa program that take effect March 11, 2026, and update number 6 could save you 18 months of waiting time, but only if you act before February 15th. My name is Jennifer Walsh, and I've been a registered migration agent for 17 years. I've successfully processed over 2,800 visa applications, and I'm looking at the Department of Home Affairs documents right now that dropped just 72 hours ago. Most migration agents are still trying to understand these changes, but I'm breaking them down for you right now in plain English so you can make the right decisions for your future. Picture this. You've spent months, maybe years, planning your move to Australia. You've found a sponsor, prepared documents, saved money for fees, and then suddenly the rules change overnight. Your eligibility shifts, your processing time doubles, or worse, your pathway disappears completely. This is happening right now to thousands of applicants, and if you don't understand these 10 critical updates, you could waste years and tens of thousands of dollars. The first major change affects the temporary skill shortage visa, the TSS 482 visa, and it's about the salary threshold. Currently, the temporary skilled migration income threshold sits at $73,150. On March 11, 2026, it's jumping to $78,490. That's an increase of $5,340, and if your sponsored position doesn't meet this new threshold, your application will be refused. Here's what this means in real terms. Marcus from the Philippines has a job offer as a marketing coordinator in Melbourne with a salary of $75,000. Under the current rules, he qualifies easily. Under the new rules starting March, he's $3,490 short. His employer either needs to increase the salary offer or he can't proceed with the application. If his employer won't budge on salary, Marcus needs to find a different sponsor or a different visa pathway entirely before the deadline. But here's what most people don't know. If your application is lodged before March 11, 2026, you're assessed under the old threshold even if the decision comes after March. This means you have exactly 86 days from today to get your application submitted if you're close to the current threshold, but won't meet the new one. Every day you delay could cost you your entire visa opportunity. The second update is about the skills assessment requirements, and this affects everyone applying from overseas. Previously, you needed a skills assessment that was valid at the time of application. The new rules require that your skills assessment must be dated within 24 months of your visa application date, down from the previous 36 months. Sarah from India got her skills assessment as a software engineer in March 2023. She was planning to apply for sponsorship in June 2026. Under the old rules, her assessment would still be valid because it's within 3 years. Under the new rules, her assessment expires in March 2025, which means she needs to get a completely new assessment done, and that process takes 4 to 6 months and costs between $800 to $1,500 depending on the occupation. If you got your skills assessment more than 18 months ago and haven't applied yet, you need to start a new assessment immediately. Don't wait. The assessing authorities are going to be flooded with applications as people realize this change, and processing times will blow out to 8 or 9 months instead of the usual 4 to 6. Change number 3 is about the English language requirements, and this is controversial. The minimum English requirement for TSS 482 visa holders is increasing. Currently, you need IELTS 5.0 overall with at least 4.5 in each component for the short-term stream and 5.0 in each component for the medium-term stream. From March 2026, everyone needs IELTS 5.5 overall with at least 5.0 in each component regardless of the stream. This might not sound like much, but going from 5.0 to 5.5 can take months of additional study and multiple test attempts. Each IELTS test costs $410 in Australia. Wei from China has taken IELTS 3 times and consistently scores 5.0 overall. She needs another 0.5 points. That could take her another 3 to 6 months of study and 2 or 3 more test attempts. That's potentially $1,230 more in test fees alone, not counting preparation courses. Here's your strategy. If you're at 5.0 now, book an intensive English course immediately and aim to take your test by early February 2026. That gives you 1 buffer test attempt if needed before the March deadline. Remember, tests taken before March 11th are valid for 3 years, so even a borderline pass now locks in the old requirement. Update number 4 affects the nomination process and introduces mandatory pre-approval for certain occupations. Starting March 2026, employers wanting to sponsor workers in 47 specific occupations must get pre-approval from the relevant industry body before they can lodge a nomination. These occupations include registered nurses, engineers in certain specializations, chefs, and various trades. What this means practically is that the entire process now takes 4 to 8 weeks longer because you need this pre-approval step before the nomination. Michael's employer in Perth wants to sponsor him as a chef. Under the current system, they lodge the nomination directly. Under the new system, they first need approval from Restaurant and Catering Australia, which involves proving they've genuinely tried to recruit locally and demonstrating the specific need for the position. Only after getting that approval can they lodge the nomination with Home Affairs. If you're in one of these 47 occupations, you and your employer need to start the pre-approval process now, even if you're not ready to lodge the full application yet. Get ahead of the queue because these industry bodies don't have infrastructure to handle thousands of sudden applications, and there will be massive delays in the first 6 months. Now we get to change number 5, and this one is huge for people wanting permanent residency. The pathway from TSS 482 to Employer Nomination Scheme 186 permanent residency is being modified. Currently, you need to work for your sponsor for 2 years in the medium-term stream before you can apply for the 186. The new rules extend this to 3 years. Listen carefully. If you're currently on a 482 visa and approaching your 2-year mark, you must lodge your 186 application before March 11, 2026. After that date, you'll need an extra year of work. That's 12 more months of temporary visa uncertainty instead of moving to permanent residency. Priya is on a 482 visa and hits her 2-year anniversary on April 5, 2026. If she waits until April to apply, she now needs to work until April 2027 before she can apply. That's 1 entire year delayed. But here's the exception that could save you. If your occupation is on the short-term skilled occupation list and you transition to the medium-term list before March 11th through a new nomination, your clock resets but you're locked into the 2-year requirement. This is complex, so you need professional advice, but for some people, doing a new nomination now actually benefits them long-term. Change number 6 is the game changer I mentioned at the beginning, and it's about priority processing for critical sectors. The government is introducing a fast-track stream for nominations in healthcare, aged care, disability support, education, and renewable energy sectors. Applications in these sectors will be processed within 30 days instead of the standard 90 to 120 days. Emma is a registered nurse from the UK with a job offer in Brisbane. Under normal processing, she's looking at 4 months from nomination lodgement to visa grant. Under the new priority stream, she could have her entire application processed in under 2 months total. That's 18 weeks faster. For someone relocating their entire life, that's the difference between starting work in May versus starting in September. That's 4 months of lost income, which at a nursing salary of $75,000 is about $25,000 in delayed earnings. But you can't just claim priority processing. Your employer must demonstrate they're in a critical shortage area and have tried to recruit locally. They need documented evidence of advertising, applications received, and why local candidates weren't suitable. If your job is in one of these 5 sectors, work with your employer now to compile this evidence before lodging so you can access the fast track immediately. The 7th change relates to family members and their work rights. Currently, secondary applicants on 482 visas have full work rights. The new rules introduce a qualification requirement. If the secondary applicant wants to work in a skilled occupation, they also need to meet minimum English requirements of IELTS 4.5 in each component. If they don't have this, they can only work in unskilled roles. Raj is coming to Australia on a 482 visa as an accountant. His wife Anjali plans to work as a teacher once they arrive. Under current rules, she can work freely. Under the new rules, she needs to prove IELTS 4.5 or higher, or she can't work in teaching. She can work in retail or hospitality, but not in her professional field. This completely changes their financial planning because they were counting on two professional incomes. If you have a partner planning to work in a skilled role, they need to take IELTS now and include the results in your visa application. Even if it's not currently required, having it in the application future proofs you against any complications. Update number 8 affects the genuineness requirements and introduces enhanced verification measures. Home Affairs is implementing mandatory video interviews for all primary applicants before visa grant. This is to combat fraud and ensure the person applying is genuinely qualified and intends to work in the nominated role. These interviews will be conducted by Home Affairs officers and last 15 to 30 minutes. They'll ask about your qualifications, work experience, understanding of the role, and intentions in Australia. If your answers don't align with your application documents, or if the officer suspects fraud, your application will be refused and you could face a 3-year ban from reapplying. Chen applied as a project manager, but in the interview couldn't explain basic project management methodologies or describe his supposed work experience in detail. The officer suspected the application documents were fraudulent. Application refused. 3-year ban imposed, and $9,000 in application fees lost forever. Your action item here is to be absolutely truthful in your application and prepare thoroughly for this interview. Review all your application documents the week before your interview. Be ready to discuss your actual work experience, your qualifications, why you want to work in Australia, and specific details about your nominated role. If you exaggerated anything in your application, withdraw it now and reapply truthfully. The interview will expose any dishonesty. Change number 9 introduces a new compliance framework for sponsors. Companies that sponsor workers will now face annual audits if they sponsor more than 5 people. These audits check that sponsored workers are actually employed in the nominated roles, being paid the agreed salary, and working the agreed hours. Serious breaches result in the sponsor being barred from sponsoring anyone for 5 years. Why does this matter to you as the visa applicant? Because if your sponsor gets barred, your visa becomes invalid and you have 60 days to find a new sponsor or leave Australia. Last year, 127 sponsors were barred, affecting over 400 visa holders. With enhanced audits, that number could triple. Before accepting any job offer, research the sponsor company thoroughly. Check how long they've been operating. Read reviews from current and former employees. Ask how many people they currently sponsor and whether they've ever had compliance issues. Avoid companies that seem to be sponsoring large numbers of people relative to their size, or those with poor reviews about underpayment or bad working conditions. A bad sponsor can destroy your entire Australian dream in 60 days. The 10th and final change is about the application fees, and yes, they're going up. The main applicant fee for 482 visas increases from $3,035 to $3,285. Secondary applicants increase from $1,520 to $1,645. If you have a family of 4 applying, that's an extra $830 total. Permanent residents 186 applications increase from $4,240 to $4,640. But here's what really stings. The new fee structure includes a non-refundable processing charge of $500 that's paid up front before you even lodge the full application. If your application is refused, you lose this $500 on top of losing all the other fees. This is designed to discourage poorly prepared applications, but it also means the financial risk of applying just increased significantly. So what do you do right now? First, if you're close to the current salary threshold but won't meet the new one, lodge your application immediately. You have 86 days. Second, check the date of your skills assessment. If it's older than 18 months, start a new assessment now. Third, book your English test for early February if your current score is borderline. Fourth, if you're in one of the 47 occupations requiring pre-approval, start that process with your employer today. Fifth, if you're approaching 2 years on a 482 visa, prepare your 186 application now to lodge before March 11th. Sixth, if you're in healthcare, aged care, disability, education, or renewable energy, compile evidence for priority processing. Seventh, ensure all secondary applicants have appropriate English scores. Eighth, prepare thoroughly for the mandatory video interview by reviewing all your documents. Ninth, research your sponsor company for any red flags. 10th, budget for the increased fees and the non-refundable processing charge. These changes aren't designed to make your life harder, although they certainly will for many people. They're designed to ensure the integrity of the program and prioritize critical skill needs. The people who will succeed under these new rules are those who are genuinely qualified, properly prepared, and act quickly. Australia remains one of the best countries in the world for skilled migrants. The opportunities are real, the quality of life is exceptional, and the sponsored visa program, despite these changes, is still one of the most accessible pathways to permanent residency in any developed country. But accessibility doesn't mean easy. It means that if you do everything correctly, prepare thoroughly, and meet all requirements, you have a genuine pathway. Don't let these changes discourage you. Let them motivate you to be more prepared than ever. The applicants who treat this process with the seriousness it deserves, who seek professional advice, who lodge complete and truthful applications, and who plan their timeline carefully are still getting their visas approved at high rates. Be one of those applicants. Your Australian future is absolutely achievable if you start taking the right steps today.